Imagine two countries, one far up north and the other in the sunny south. People of both countries need oranges and spruce wood. The northerners have plenty of spruce trees, so they produce spruce planks famous all over the world for their quality. Unfortunately, they don't have any oranges. Surely there's a chance they will be able to grow oranges by themselves. They could build greenhouses, use fertilizers, and install special lamps imitating sunlight. Likewise, southerners, given the proper effort and stubbornness, could grow the spruce trees they need, even though they now waste a lot of uneaten oranges. But therein lies the problem, you see. Northerners attempting to grow oranges would need not only to spend a lot of money to build proper infrastructure, but they would also need to spend less time doing what they do best, working with spruce trees. The cost of growing oranges instead of woodworking may be losing, say, 5 planks to get 1 orange. The same goes for the southerners if they want to sacrifice a part of their growth of oranges to get some spruces. You just can't do everything at once, because resources like time.
Yeah, so it is highlighting a specific problem, this video. See, division of labor, we easily take it for granted. Okay, so everyone is supposed to do something and they're doing it, but it was not like earlier. So how this idea actually crept up? Why there was an acceptance? Okay, there should be a division of labor, because eventually there was industrialization, there were power tools available. So industry one, or you can say the industrial revolution of the 18th century is mostly related with the use of power tools, hmm, rather than the hand tools. So with the use of power tools, the idea of doing efficient work crept into the minds of the people. Also, they get to know that efficiency is related with the money. So if we have to get more money, anyway, human being is a selfish being, so we have to get more money. So in order to get more money, they need to cut down the production cost. Okay, now in order to cut down the production cost, we need this idea which they are talking about. That's how it all crept into the minds.
And land are scarce. Let's put it into numbers. Suppose that each northerner and southerner works 10 hours a day producing either oranges or planks. A typical northerner spends 6 hours producing 3 tons of planks, and then 4 hours to reap 1 ton of oranges. Meanwhile, an average southerner spends 5 hours to reap 4 tons of oranges.
Northerner and southerner, basically the difference is that northerner means very cold. North side is generally associated with cold, and southern side is associated with warm. So I mean, that's how it is depicted.
And then 5 hours to produce 1 ton of planks.
I forgot to do the recording. Just a second. I'll start from here. Yeah. No, it's going on. Yeah, fine.
This means that northerners have an absolute advantage over southerners in producing spruce planks, while southerners.
Yeah. So what did you? Can anyone tell me what did you understand from this idea which is there on the screen?
So that different.
नॉर्दर्नर को केवल ऑरेंजेस ग्रो करने चाहिए और नॉर्दर्नर को केवल प्लैंक्स.
नहीं, I mean ये तो बात
the northerners are more capable of producing planks and the southerners are more capable of producing tomatoes.
Oranges.
Sir, if both divide their parts equally, then they can have a greater production of both the things.
No, I'm not coming to the conclusion right now. You are coming to the conclusion. मैं क्या बोल रहा हूँ कि ये figure wise क्या है? What is 10 hours per day? First, let's talk about this. What is 10 hours per day?
Overall time that they invest.
Okay.
Time investment by northerners.
Yeah. So 6 plus 4 is 10. So दोनों के पास 10-10 घंटे एक दिन के. Okay. 6 घंटे में वो 3 टन वुड का काम कर लेते हैं नॉर्दर्नर्स, वाइल एक टन वुड का 5 घंटे लगते हैं उनको करने में. सिमिलरली यू कैन सी द कॉन्ट्रास्ट ओवर हियर कि ये 6 आवर्स लगते हैं इनको 3 टन का काम करने में, एंड आई मीन दे प्रोड्यूस 3 टन इन 6 आवर्स एंड दे प्रोड्यूस 1 टन इन 5 आवर्स. Similarly, 4 ton oranges they produce in 5 hours and 1 ton they produce in 4 hours, northerners. तो यहाँ पे देखा जा ये what is the meaning of this four block you can say is that कि हर जना हर चीज में अच्छा नहीं है, right? First of all, किसी की एबिलिटी किसी दूसरी चीज में अच्छी है, some other as having more competency in another thing. So southerners are having more competency in producing oranges because of the climate and because of the demography या जो भी चीज है. Okay, so this is the first thing that we realize.
Southerners have an absolute advantage over northerners in reaping oranges. Such a pattern of production allows for production of 4 tons of planks and 5 tons of oranges in the economy. Now, what would happen if both peoples decided to specialize? Being as productive as they are, in 10 hours, northerners would produce 5 tons of planks, while southerners would.
Right now we can see total, अभी हम दोनों का ऐड कर देंगे तो amount of wood which is being produced is 4 tons and amount of apples which are oranges which are being produced is 5 tons. Okay,
produce 8 tons of oranges. The result would be an additional 1 ton of planks and 3 tons of oranges in the economy. You probably already figured out that both people.
now if they combine together, I mean they do their own stuff they specialize in their own stuff, they'll be able to produce 8 tons instead of 5 tons, and they'll be able to produce 1 ton extra wood instead of 4 tons.
Peoples would do better focusing on a kind of production that they have advantage in. Northerners should produce spruce planks in exchange for some oranges. Southerners should do the opposite. If both do, then there will be more oranges and more planks in the economy for everyone to enjoy. Both peoples will gain because of trade and division of labor. But what if someone is better than anyone else at everything? What will happen then? To tackle with this problem, we need to understand how comparative advantage works.
So ये भी एक क्वेश्चन आता है कि मान लीजिए मैं सभी चीज अच्छी कर सकता हूँ, गेटिंग इट, तो मैं सभी काम, मेरे को फिर डिवीजन की जरूरत नहीं है, तो उसका क्वेश्चन का आंसर यहाँ पे है.
Imagine 2 people. The first one is a brilliant opera singer. The second one is a cleaner whose only ability, and therefore his only possible contribution to the operation of an opera house, is wiping its floors. The singer is better than the cleaner in everything he does. He is smarter and better organized. Not only that he sings better, obviously, but he is also more able at every other task there is to be done at the opera. He is better at playing musical instruments, managing the opera's staff, or writing plays. He would even upstage the cleaner at cleaning the opera's floors. So tell me, who would be more likely to get a job as a cleaner if the opera started recruiting? The singer, right? Nope. Although the singer has an absolute advantage in cleaning, among other things, he wouldn't even bother applying for the job, as he would have to forego its alternative cost, that is singing, which earns him a lot of money. Consider that he got used to a costly standard of living, and he would have to therefore demand an absurdly high wage for a simple act of wiping floors. Although it takes the cleaner more time to wipe the floors, other people value the singer's singing more than his ability to wipe the floors a bit faster. This valuation is reflected in the difference in earnings between the 2 jobs. As a result, the cleaner has a better chance of getting a floor cleaning job than the singer, who would only lose money by getting it. This is why the cleaner has a comparative advantage over the singer in cleaning. If the singer were to accept the cleaner's job, the economy would be worse off, because we would be left with comparatively cleaner floors, a poorer singer, and an unemployed cleaner, or a horrible singer if the cleaner got the job. But we don't want the singer to wipe floors. We want him to sing, as it adds more value to society. We want the cleaner to clean floors, because no one is better than him at this, comparatively speaking. Thanks to the respective comparative advantages, we have clean floors, an employed cleaner, a rich singer, and a satisfied aesthetic need of listening to opera music. Everyone gains in this arrangement. The same principle works for a manufacturer who's best at producing.
Now this is the one where we are actually coming to the manufacturer. For a manufacturer, why it will be more beneficial to go for specialization?
Everything, but still benefits from trade with another manufacturer who produces everything less efficiently. Thanks to the less efficient manufacturer, the more effective one will devote more time to the most profitable avenue of production. It is better to focus on the most profitable production possible and to buy the rest from others than to spread oneself too thin. You can find a link to the article about comparative advantage on our website. We recommend reading it as it provides a clear explanation of comparative advantage, building on a specific case with concrete calculations. Moreover, comparative advantage suggests an answering to the following.
Okay, so I hope it was clear. Now I'll give you an example. So there is a company in Jaipur, which is in National Engineering Industries. Okay, now this is a Birla-owned company, and they produce bearings. I hope everyone understands what is bearing, right? So bearing helps in rotation of the rotation of the members in the machinery. So earlier in the sense in 1990s or before that, this company was doing everything right from foundry, that is the melting, and then giving shape to the object, then press working it, giving strength through heat treatment, and then finishing it, because rolling or you can say bearings are very they should have very high surface integrity. They should be very smooth. So heat treatment and all this. So the main thing about bearing is the smoothness. Okay. So over a period of time, and they were spending a lot of money. So over a period of time, they realized that if they only focus on surface finishing, which is the core requirement for which the customer is paying for, then they are better off. So they shut down their foundry. They shut down many other machining operations, rather than they outsource everything except finishing, super finishing. Okay. So, I think you might not have have you read about grinding and all? I think yes, in workshop you might have done that. So grinding, yeah. So the main competency of a bearing company is to provide good finish to the bearing. So they focused largely on bearing. They spend a lot of money on finishing operations rather than machining operations. They outsourced everything. The raw material became the crude form of bearing. Okay. So again, so it is a specialization of a company. Now, even if for a job specialization, job specialization is a process by which the division of labor occurs. Different workers specialize in specific tasks over time. So industrial revolution started this idea of job specialization and division of labors. Because of that only we have people in accounts. We have, even if you go to bank, we have a cashier, we have a manager, we have a person who's dealing with the forms and all. So for everywhere there is a different person who's doing defined job. It's just coming because of the implications of the industrial revolution. So workers who specialize became much and more skilled at the specific task. So skill becoming honed. कोई काम आप बार बार करते हैं. So although you are good at it, you are going to become even better. Okay. So increasing job specialization, increased efficiency. And we have seen in the video how job specialization is increasing efficiency and hence leading to higher organizational performance as a whole. Okay. Now, further, it led to work fragmentation. Now, work fragmentation, this I'll check. I'm checking whether I'm sharing the screen with the other group or not. Yeah. So this is going to be a time-consuming task. Every time I have to show a video, and many times I'll be showing a lot of videos. Yeah. So work fragmentation. Now you can see over here that complete job. Let's say automobile. Okay. Now this automobile has got tens of thousands of components and at least 70 to 80 different works. Okay, so a simple, and then it has to be splitted into several tiny tasks. I'll show you one video where automobile is being made.
सर अभी अटेंडेंस वाली शीट फिल करनी है क्या?
हो रही है क्या आपसे? Try doing it. Try doing it.
ओके सर.
Just a second. Showing a small video. Yeah. So yeah. Okay. Tab. Now, what you need to observe is that workers will not be moving here and there. They are rather more or less at the same place while they are doing different jobs. Okay, so let's have a look at it. So that was body one. Now you can see over here that at every workstation there is going to be change in the car. And there are robots also. These are robotic hands. At times there are robotic hands. At times there's a manual work, manual labor involved.
As you can see, I'm inside a car plant, and it is the Maruti Suzuki manufacturing facility just outside of Delhi in Manesar. It is where the brand new Swift Desire is rolling out to the market. It's all set for its launch, and the production.
Now, in this one, you won't see this guy who's standing over here. He will not be going to the another car. The car will be coming to him. That means he'll be doing the same job on each car.
Set for its launch, and the production.
So whatever he's sticking, he's going to stick it to every car.
So the plant here has been updated to accommodate the new model and that new platform. The material used is also a little bit different because unlike the last Desire,
you see this guy is just going to load the door over here. That's his job. He's not doing anything else.
which used 20% high tensile steel, the new one has 36% overall.
Doing the same,
well, of course,
same
it makes
thing
the
again
car
and again.
structure more rigid and also lighter.
Another thing which you are going to observe is that the car is continuously moving. It's not like the car is stopping. The workers are inside car and they're working while the car is moving.
So what you're seeing here, of course, is full-scale production because it's a popular model, and so the company wants to really scale things up when it comes to how many cars are ready to go at launch. How many are made every day? Well, in the region of about 650. That's the kind of average here at Plant A, which is one of the 3 units that produces different models inside Manesar. So that's a lot of new Desires heading into the market. Remember, it's no longer called the Swift Desire. It's just Desire now. So that's the new headlamp cluster on the new Desire, and it's one of the, you can tell that that's a bit simpler. Again, something.
This guy is noting down few things and he'll be just doing the same thing. So the idea was to let you know that how the work has to be splitted. Okay, now I'm sharing my screen again. This is sometimes a bit annoying that every time I have to do this. you may find out a better option later on, but anyway, I'll keep on doing the same thing till you tell me another option. Okay, so now this slide which you see on the screen right now is a complete job, means the car requires multi-skilled worker, as we have seen there in the video. Although I did not go into detail, you can also see a lot of assembly line videos online. So it requires multi-skilled worker. Not like someone was tightening the bolt, someone was sticking the frame for the windshield, someone was noting down, someone was using the check sheet to note down whatever has been done. So all these things were being done. So eventually it requires a simple worker. Okay, a tiny task. You break down the task to such an extent that it becomes less and less complicated. Okay. So Adam Smith paradigm of education, in the sense, now it's Adam Smith paradigm का मतलब यही है कि जो आपने ये देखा है fragmentation of job which is given by Adam Smith. Now अगर इसको हम education की उसमें देखें, so what it says, instead of Dronacharya, now you require large number of teachers. Okay, where each teacher has a limited skill set. Like वो mathematics का teacher होगा या English का होगा या हिंदी का होगा या industrial engineering का होगा या thermal engineering का या thermodynamics का, whatever. So you'll require each teacher has a limited skill set, and each teacher teaches few subjects. Okay, कुछ ही वो जो उसके area के हैं, like for example me, I take industrial engineering subject. Okay, although I'm taking it for the first time, but I'm allied to this area, and my degree also is specialized in this. Also, I take another few allied subjects like operation research. I take production planning and control. I take Six Sigma. Okay, now I'm also diversifying myself, क्योंकि diversification का भी ज़माना है at the same time. So we will talk about diversification a bit late. So I'm also taking artificial intelligence, machine learning. I'll be floating for you guys in the 4th year. So so you can see over here that we are expert in few areas, and work of teacher has become specialized but simple. Teacher association student is now limited and for short duration. अगर मैं आप सबसे बात करने लगूं 5 मिनट भी अगर मैं आप सबसे बात करूं तो मेरे को कितनी देर लगेगी बताइए? Can anyone tell?
10 hours.
10 to 12
10 घंटे. So आपको तो 5 ही मिनट लगा, but I am like swarmed in 10 hours. तो मेरा, I mean, I'll be totally finished if I continuously talk for 10 hours with each one of you. So you can imagine that. So इसीलिए यहाँ पे लिखा है teacher student association is very limited for shorter duration. So I'm more of a service provider rather than a guru. Okay. Because I'm catering to large number of students. ऐसा नहीं है कि द्रोणाचार्य के तो भाई 4-5 जने थे जिनको उन्होंने पढ़ाना था, but ऐसा नहीं है, अब तो हम mass production में लगे हुए हैं. So this is what. So division of labor and mechanization. The principle of division of labor, as explained in Wealth of Nations 1776 में एक बुक आई थी, उसमें इस प्रिंसिपल को काफी अच्छे से समझाया गया था, and it led to the idea of division of labor, further supplemented by invention of steam engine by James Watt, which gave power tools, which gave to the idea of power tools. So concept of mechanization was born. So mechanization plus division of labor in the form of work fragmentation led to huge productivity improvement. कि भाई mechanization हो रहा है, human की भी एक लिमिटेशन होती है. मैनुअल वो कितना वर्क कर लेगा, हैंड टूल से वो क्या फोर्स लगा के कितना डिफॉर्मेशन ले आएगा. बट मैकेनाइजेशन से ये काफी पॉसिबल हुआ कि ह्यूमन फिजिकल स्ट्रेंथ, वी वेंट बियॉन्ड ह्यूमन फिजिकल स्ट्रेंथ, एंड विद द डिवीजन ऑफ लेबर it led to replacement of manual work by machine. And main tasks to be performed by worker was setting up the machine, loading the machine, unloading the workpiece, loading the raw material, unloading the finished or semi-finished product, starting and stopping. So because of the mechanization, these were the main tasks associated with the workers. So tasks for the worker got simpler, and because of the simpler work, many workers could be trained all together in a very short duration, and worker become expert of because of the simplicity of the work and due to repetitiveness of it. Repetitive बोलते हैं ना कि practice makes the man perfect. So that's what repetitive work does. It makes you perfect in a certain work. It's like आपका जो neural network है वो tune हो जाता है एक काम करने के लिए. You might have also seen कि मान लीजिए आप ड्राइव कर रहे हैं, ओके, ऑन सर्टेन रूट. लेट्स से आप रोज अपने स्कूल जाते हैं बाइक चला के या कार चला के या साइकिल चला के. सो फर्स्ट डे व्हेन यू गो यू फाइंड रूट एंड ऑल. आप नई जगह जा रहे हैं, आपको टाइम लगता है, आपको लगता है रास्ता भी लंबा है. बट देन ओवर 10 days यू गो एंड बाय द 15th day आपको सोचना भी नहीं पड़ता है. यू आर प्रोबेबली थिंकिंग समथिंग एल्स. आपके दिमाग में पूरी मूवी चल रही है दूसरी. And you don't realize that by the time you open your eyes, you are in the school. Or now when you're going to come to the college, that's what's going to happen. आप लोगों ने एक सेमेस्टर तो किया है ना कॉलेज में?
Yes, sir. So 1.5.
हाँ, okay. So eventually ऐसा ही होगा कि आपको क्लास में जाना होगा, आप हॉस्टल से निकलेंगे अपने दोस्तों से बात करते हुए, and you wouldn't realize कि रास्ता क्या लेना है. शुरू में आपको हो सकता है फर्स्ट डे आएंगे, आपको ढूंढना पड़ेगा ये सब कैसे जाना है वगैरह वगैरह. आफ्टर 10-15 days you won't even have to think. So exactly यही होता है. कोई भी काम करते हैं हम जो repetitive होता है, so we don't realize how it is being done after some point of time. So developments which happened, I'll be a bit more introductory for first few like 3 to 4 lectures, then I will shift my gear to the main technical part, okay, because it is very important we build up on this book. Otherwise you will find that we are doing something which is not very much directly related to you, and I'm going to make this subject absolutely related to you by the time we progress. Okay, so developments during 1800 onwards were development of factory system of production. So पहले हम एक वीडियो देखते हैं सेकंड इंडस्ट्रियल रेवोल्यूशन का. वही काफी इम्पोर्टेंट भी है. एंड या
सर स्लाइड्स आप शेयर करेंगे ना हमारे साथ?
या डेफिनेटली आई विल शेयर एवरीथिंग.
ओके सर.
Although it's a very small video, but it's worth it.
Historians looked at a bunch of changes in technical systems and called it the Industrial Revolution. But historians love to debate each other, so some of them pointed out that the first half of this revolution looks a lot different from the second. Basically, the first Industrial Revolution ramped up around 1800. It started in Britain, ran on steam, trains, and factories, and led to lots of scientific discoveries by individual researchers such as Volta, Faraday, and Maxwell. The second Industrial Revolution resulted from the industrialization of electricity and mass manufacturing. It happened around 1900, started in the United States, and ran on electricity, cars, and communication technologies. And it led to technological inventions owned by corporations, such as the various Edison companies, and everyone's favorite Orwellian corporate work camp, Ford Motor. Whatever terms you use, the world at the end of the 19th century looked very different than it did at the beginning. For one, lots of people could now see at night because of electricity. For two, the scale of industry and also what that word even meant had changed. For example, German-American engineer John Augustus Roebling lobbied for the 486-meter-long Brooklyn Bridge connecting Manhattan to Long Island. His son, Washington, oversaw construction until 1870, when he was seriously injured. Then Washington's wife and co-chief engineer Emily Roebling oversaw construction through the bridge's completion in 1883. Meanwhile, in Paris, the wrought iron Eiffel Tower, completed in 1889, created a metaphorical bridge into the future and a literal bridge to nowhere. It's not a bridge. And three, and one of the most iconic scale-shifting 19th century American inventions, was the automobile and the new, more efficient factory system that created it. Carl Benz invented the practical automobile in 1885, but cars in the late 1800s were super expensive, so most people moved around on ships or trains between cities and on horses within them. There was just this one big problem, biology. Horses got sick, they died, they got into accidents causing traffic jams. Plus, cities couldn't figure out how to clear away all of the manure fast enough. In fact, New York City hosted the first professional conference on urban planning in 1898, and the theme was horse poop management, which probably was a respectable job. As the saying I just made up goes, 'tis better to manage than to shovel. Anyway, people love the idea of cars. If only they worked better. Enter Henry Ford, a famous inventor who modeled his life on Edison's.
So, first industrial revolution, till now you talked about the first industrial revolution where mechanization is there, division of labor is there. But then industrial revolution 2, it changed the course of the manufacturing.
A progressive vegetarian who helped invent social welfare, and a racist who helped invent social engineering, inspiring Adolf Hitler. It's safe to say that Ford's legacy is complicated. Ford was raised in Michigan, and in 1879 became an apprenticed machinist. Then in 1891,
So machinist means that mechanization was there when he was very young. Ford was very young. Mechanization was there. He was a machinist. I think you might have seen that movie Ford and Ferrari. How many of you have seen that? So some idea you must be having about Ford. If you have not seen that movie, you must see that movie. It is very, I mean, it's different. Yeah, it'll give you an idea about those times.
Ford joined the Edison Illuminating Company in Detroit. He became chief engineer only 2 years later, working on the side on experimental projects such as the quadricycle, which is, why is that not a thing I can buy? Ford loved Edison, the company and the man. He saw Edison's corporate research on lights, phonographs, and movies in New Jersey and thought, yes, good, I am going to do that, but bigger, for cars. So in 1903, Ford co-founded the Ford Motor Company. When Ford got started, there were many, many small auto companies turning out gas, electric, and even steam-powered cars. In fact, electric cars were popular, but all of these cars were still expensive and unreliable.
Why they were still expensive? Because the quantity in which you produce. See, अगर आप ना Rolls Royce बनवाएंगे या order से आप दिलीप छाबड़िया से अपनी कार बनवाएंगे, तो दिलीप छाबड़िया ऑन द अदर हैंड तो डीसी कार्स जो है वो तो मॉडिफाई ही करता है कार्स को, वो कार की कॉस्ट से ज्यादा कॉस्ट लग जाती है उसमें. ओके, सो द आइडिया इज कि क्वांटिटी बढ़ाई जाए.
And there were no standard car parts. Ford set out to change.
एक बड़ा प्रॉब्लम है उसमें. मान लीजिए आपने कार बनाई, आप कहते हैं मैं लार्ज क्वांटिटी में कार बनाऊंगा, बट द प्रॉब्लम विच कम्स इज दैट अगर मान लीजिए मेरी एक शाफ्ट टूट जाती है कार की, या मान लीजिए कि मेरा व्हील हब खराब हो जाता है, तो मेरे को उसी कार में फिटिंग का एक व्हील हब अलग बनाना पड़ेगा. ओके, तो स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन की प्रॉब्लम है बड़ी. सो ये जो स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन की प्रॉब्लम है, जो एक बहुत बड़ा इम्पेडिमेंट होता है मास मैन्युफैक्चरिंग में, कि हर प्रोडक्ट की कोई भी चीज, फॉर एग्जांपल आप लीजिए पेन, आपका रेनॉल्ड 045 पेन होता है, आप उसको डिसअसेंबल करके अपनी टेबल पे रख दीजिए. ऐसे 4 पेन और लीजिए, उसको भी डिसअसेंबल कर दीजिए. अब पूरा मिक्स हो जाएगा, आपको पता नहीं है कि कौन से पेन में कौन सी चीज लगी थी, राइट? बट आप उसको असेंबल करेंगे तो वो असेंबल हो जाएगा पूरा, 4 पेन वापस बन जाएंगे. सो व्हाई इज दैट हैपनिंग? वो रीजन अब ये बताएगा.
Change all of that. Vroom vroom, thought bubble. In the early years, Ford Motor was a small-scale operation that carried out mostly experimental work. They had no uniform process for manufacturing cars. Ford's team learned a lot and drummed up a lot of public interest. The Ford 999, for example, broke the land speed record, covering a mile in only 39 seconds. But Ford wanted a car that was affordable, easy to operate, and tough. He pushed his team, and in 1908, they released the Model T.
ये मॉडल टी की बात उसमें भी करी हुई थी मूवी में.
And this car changed the world. In the first month, only 11 Model Ts were produced, but 2 years later, in 1910, Ford produced 10,000. In 1914, the year the First World War broke out, the company shipped 250,000. And in 1916, Ford sold nearly 500,000 cars, each for less than half the 1914 price. Then in 1920,
So, हाफ द प्राइस. ठीक है, आपका प्रोडक्शन बढ़ रहा है तो आपकी कॉस्ट कम हो रही है.
1927, Ford produced 15 million cars, plus tractors and lots of other machines. These large production numbers highlight the phrase most often associated with Ford, mass production. This style of production meant specialization and standardization. The Ford
स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन का मतलब यही है कि आप जो भी पार्ट प्रोड्यूस कर रहे हैं हमारे अपनी कंपनी में, वो एक पर्टिकुलर साइज का ही बनाएंगे, एक पर्टिकुलर स्टैंडर्ड का, एक लिमिट्स के विद इन लिमिट्स उसकी डायमेंशन होगी. वो एक स्टैंडर्ड डायमेंशन की एक टॉलरेंस ग्रेड होती है. वो शायद आप थर्ड ईयर में मैं आपको पढ़ाऊंगा. तो उसको इंटरचेंजेबिलिटी बोलते हैं. सो बेसिकली जो स्टैंडर्डाइजेशन है वो इंटरचेंजेबिलिटी की वजह से पॉसिबल हुआ है, विच बेसिकली मींस के कोई भी पार्ट जो प्रोड्यूस किया जाएगा वो एक सर्टेन रेंज में प्रोड्यूस होगा, एक सर्टेन साइज में प्रोड्यूस होगा, सो दैट इट कैन बी असेंबल्ड इन एनी. उसकी वो कहीं पे भी फिट किया जा सकता है, कहीं पे इन द सेंस कि कोई सी भी कार का कोई सी भी उसमें लग सकता है. जैसे व्हील का एक पर्टिकुलर साइज आते हैं व्हील्स के, ऐसा नहीं है कि आपको कंटिन्यूस रेंज मिल रही है व्हील के diameter की, right?
Plants at Highland Park and River Rouge only produced one thing, the Model T. These plants used Ford's special business technique, the assembly line, so they could assemble a car from raw materials in only 28 hours. Using sheet metal, they could assemble a Model T in 1 hour without robots or computers. You could even visit and see this happen because Ford loved watching people experience how his cars came to life. So Ford succeeded thanks to unskilled labor and a modular system that anyone could learn a single part of. That was the core idea of his assembly line philosophy, Fordism. Build sophistication into the product, making it modular using standardized parts, and take skill out of the work involved. Just weld some parts and presto, you're ready to zoom past some horses and put all those poop managers out of business. Thanks, Thought Bubble. Ford hoped Model Ts would protect his version of a small-town American utopia. Now, country doctors and lawyers could drive around just like rich British and German dudes. He also hoped that it would keep farmers on the farm. Well, white farmers anyway. And he wanted to spur an entire industry of small-scale entrepreneurs who could augment and repair his cars. He even published a Model T repair catalog to help them. The irony was that with his growing company, Ford Motor created an environment hostile to small automobile entrepreneurs. It was expensive to invest in an assembly line factory. And Ford had a problem. Working on an assembly line was awfully boring, so he faced a 300% turnover.
Now this boring part, there's a very good Charlie Chaplin movie. I don't know how many of you have seen that. Charlie Chaplin keeps on doing the same repetitive work all the time, and he goofs up the whole factory. I don't know if you've seen that. I'll share the link with you. What statement he's giving, it is very much relevant to this course also, that repetitive jobs become very boring also. After some time, when there's no challenge left in the job, you try to move on. So that's why turnover means that 300% people, like if there are 100 people employed at the January, there will be 300 people who would have left, and 100 new would have joined by next January.
rate. He also had $27 million in cold profits that he could reinvest, so he came up with a solution. Double his workers' pay to a whopping $5 per day. This sounded great. In fact, it caused riots when it was announced as people tried to get these amazing jobs. In reality, only white men were even eligible to earn the whole $5. African Americans earned 20% less, and women were mostly ineligible. But Ford worried that simply paying people more wasn't enough. He wanted to educate his workers to become model citizens. So he stipulated that they could earn his new wage only if they met certain conditions. 1, they had to work for 6 months. 2, they had to be clean living, sober, thrifty, and possessed of good moral habits and involved in civic life. And 3, they had to swear off all involvement with union activity. Ford even went so far as to set up the Ford Sociological Department, which conducted inspections of his workers. In his mind, he wasn't just producing cars, he was producing Americans. The Sociological Department had images of what a worker's house was supposed to look like. They inspected these homes and then published before and after photos to show worker compliance with the company's rules. Ford felt that this was his duty. He hated the trends that he was seeing in industrial society. Ford viewed immigrants, especially Jewish immigrants, and the corporations that employed them as serious threats to democracy. In the late 1920s and 30s, Ford turned to focus on his social goals. He wanted Americans to learn not from the school books, but from life. So he opened a museum dedicated to Thomas Edison, and then another one all about Ford Motor. Then Ford went really overboard. He relocated the homes or workshops of famous inventors and recreated others, organizing them into a whole town called Greenfield Village with no regard to geographic accuracy. Greenfield is a mishmashed paradise for a historian of technology. To this day, you can visit Edison's Menlo Park laboratory and the Wright brothers bicycle shop and George Washington Carver's house. Ford Motor kept operating his museums in Greenfield Village after he died, updating the museums to showcase all kinds of innovations. What were the short-term effects of scaling up the auto industry? Well, this also meant scaling up the infrastructure of roads, gas stations, and mechanic shops that could keep motorists a-motorin'. Cars also increased access to national parks, more people were moving to cities, and the US government was starting to protect wild spaces from development. Cars allowed people in cities to get out to these spaces, generating new interest in nature with a capital N. This led to research on the scientific management of forests and influenced the young discipline of ecology, which we'll get to in a later episode. In terms of economics, other car manufacturers emulated the Fordist assembly line method. While Ford concentrated on producing as many Model Ts as possible, General Motors created many different models, giving Americans more options. By the middle of the century, only 3 companies, the big 3, Ford, GM, and Chrysler, dominated the American auto market, pushing out small regional manufacturers. And Ford's company became a symbol for the transformative power of American industry, and for the tensions between the owners of large corporations and the workers running them. Industrialists felt that their workers had freedom as non-unionized contractors, and that large corporations were a natural result of innovation. Workers, on the other hand, didn't feel free. They worked long hours and often had little choice, as with Ford Motor, to where and even how they lived. They came together, forming unions in order to negotiate for better labor conditions. Finally, scientists and engineers professionalized a lot over the course of the 1800s. The American Medical Association, for example, was founded in 1847, and Wyoming became the first state to legally license engineers in 1907. Increasingly, being a doctor or engineer wasn't something you could just do. You needed university training, financial backing, and professional licensing. And corporations such as the Edison companies and Ford Motor offered paths for professionals to follow, shaping what it was that scientists and engineers did all day and why they did those things. Today, many people claim there has been a third industrial revolution tied to digital information technologies, and even a fourth, a current one, tied to internet-connected automation. Before we get to those stories, however, we have...
So this was about the Industrial Revolution, and the pioneer of the Industrial Revolution 2, which is about the mass production, not the electricity and mass production, is associated with Ford. So now we'll continue story in the next class. Okay, I'll share this video as well.
Sir?
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
So there are
Yeah.
some doubts regarding the presentation. तो आप
Yeah,
वो
please.
clear कर दीजिए कि
हाँ.
हमें presentation में PPT बनानी है या फिर किस टाइप से देना है हमें?
I think PPT would be good because it will go in the evaluation part. Like the PPT will be shared with all the class, all the people in the class, and there'll be quizzes from the PPTs also.
And so for the एक ग्रुप का जो परफॉर्म हो रहा है, जैसे फर्स्ट स्लॉट जो हमारा 22nd को है,
हाँ, एक ग्रुप 9 बजे प्रेजेंट करेगा, एक ग्रुप 10 बजे प्रेजेंट करेगा.
सर उनकी बुक्स अलग हो सकती हैं या सेम बुक
हाँ,
के?
नहीं, डेफिनेटली अलग होनी चाहिए. इट्स लाइक जो बुक्स हैं वो ऐसा नहीं है कि दोनों बुक एक ही दिन प्रेजेंट हो रही हो. देयर शुड बी लाइक एक बुक ए है, वो अगर अभी प्रेजेंट हुई है तो होपफुली इट शुड कम आफ्टर सम टाइम. इट शुड नॉट हैपन कि वो एक आगे पीछे हो रही है प्रेजेंट.
एंड एक ग्रुप
The idea is that it will get revised and reinforced.
ओके सर.
Okay.
एंड सर हम लोग अपने ग्रुप में जैसे सपोजिटली मेरा जो ग्रुप है
हाँ,
उसमें
हाँ.
हम लोग अपना ऑर्डर डिसाइड कर सकते हैं, आप किसी को भी रैंडमली पूछो?
I will tell के कौन स्टार्ट करेगा, कौन इसके बाद आएगा. So everyone should be ready with the whole presentation. बिकॉज जनरली क्या होता है बुक रीडिंग में, फिर क्या होता है ना, वो चैप्टर बांट लेते हैं, तू ये चैप्टर पढ़ ले, फिर पता किसी को नहीं होता पूरा. लाइक आप मूवी थोड़ी देख लोगे जाके, 15 मिनट तू मूवी देखा, 15 मिनट मैं देख लूंगा, फिर जाके वो कंसोलिडेट करेंगे अपनी मूवी. इट डजंट हैपन लाइक दैट. एवरीवन हैज टू रीड अ बुक.
ओके सर.
या
एंड
Sir, I have another issue.
या